Stanley Kubrick was an eccentric and talented filmmaker whose works gained tremendous recognition for their diverse genres, moody cinematography, and signature existentialism. Welcome to State of Scrutiny. This is a documentary on one of cinema's most influential yet controversial filmmakers. Early life and personality. In New York during July of 1928, Stanley Kubrick was born to a couple of Jewish immigrant parents. His father, Jacob, was a homeopathic physician, while his mother, Sadie, was a homemaker who would care for both Stanley and his younger sister, Barbara. The family was considered wealthy, and despite its Jewish roots, they did not live by any religious doctrine. In his youth, Stanley's father gifted him a Graflex camera, and from that grew his talent in photography. He was described as a highly curious child with a fascination for Greek and Roman myths, the Brothers Grimm fables, photography, and chess. He was described as a meticulous and disciplined scholar, but only when delving into topics he found fascinating or interesting. At the age of 16, Stanley would capture a pivotal photograph of a dejected newspaper vendor reacting to the demise of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Kubrick sold the photograph to Look magazine, and shortly thereafter was taken under their wing as an apprentice photographer. Stanley would spend the next 4 years traveling all over the United States as a photojournalist, frequently attending screenings at the Museum of Modern Art. Stanley drew immense inspiration from these screenings as he began to favor filmmaking over photography. He chose to leave the magazine outlet and began auditing classes at Columbia University. In 1951, he released a documentary titled Day of the Fight, which he completely self-financed. After making several short films, Stanley would launch his first feature film, titled Fear and Desire, in 1953. But Stanley Kubrick was no starving artist. In fact, the financing for this film had been secured by his father and his uncle. Both men believed in his talent and that he would be successful in cinema. Kubrick's approach to filmmaking was described as both pragmatic yet experimental, and his collaborative spirit often prompted deviations from the script to create a better film. Diane Johnson, the co-writer of the script for The Shining, said that Stanley felt it was better to adapt a book rather than write an original screenplay, adding further that you should choose a work that is not a masterpiece because that means that you can improve upon it. Kubrick's films construct a layered experience capable of engaging audiences on a multitude of levels. His works are imbued with his distinct touch of ambiguity and the esoteric, often employing nonlinear storytelling to enrich the viewer's sense of immersion. His thoughtful use of psychological themes, meticulous symbolism, and highly complex characters create a sobering sense of realism. In fact, it was Kubrick's unconventional techniques that would inspire modern cinema's own focus on realism and innovative structures. Kubrick's emphasis on philosophy, allegories, and motifs construct microcosms that brazenly depict the most indignant aspects of humankind. Through his abrasive yet intimate storytelling, we are reminded of our own unrefined humanity. Kubrick utilized these mechanics so that we could connect and relate to particularly vile figures. The universal facets of the human condition are so carefully woven into the fabric of his films that we begin to reflect on our own existence in ways other cinema seldom requires us to. The cost of perfection. There is always a cost when making truly masterful art. For decades, viewers and critics have debated the ethics of Kubrick's conventions on set. During the filming of Eyes Wide Shut, it was revealed that Kubrick intentionally stirred up conflict between his co-stars Cruise and Kidman, who not only depicted a married couple in the film, but were married to each other in real life. The co-stars revealed that Kubrick carved out 2 months prior to filming, in which they spent rehearsing their roles and engaging in intimate discussions about their actual marriage. Tom Cruise described some of the revelations discussed with Kubrick about his marriage as things he, quote, did not want to hear, end quote. The information Kubrick gathered, while confidential, would set the foundation for an intensely immersive acting experience that constantly blurred the lines between reality and on-screen fantasy. Thus, the palpable tension on our screens was more than just good acting. After all, Kubrick said that realism is probably the best way to dramatize argument and ideas, while fantasy deals best with themes which lie primarily in the unconscious. While filming on set for The Shining, Kubrick directed Jack Nicholson to torment and terrorize Shelley Duvall. Kubrick's relentless pursuit of perfection demanded that scenes be reshot repeatedly, at times refusing to print until the 35th take. This created an emotionally disturbing environment for Duvall, as she was constantly inundated with Nicholson's method acting antics. The bathroom scene alone took 3 weeks to complete, leaving Shelley Duvall with swollen eyes, a hoarse voice, and dehydration. She described the last 9 months of filming as physically and mentally arduous. She endured 12-hour days full of crying, fear, anxiety, and physical labor. Duvall would eventually abandon acting entirely. Kubrick would, of course, defend his on-set culture, stating that his intent was to create a truly horrifying and realistic sense of terror for the viewers. And, of course, he would defend that these actors were willingly coming into these projects and engaging with his on-set culture. If he were alive today, he'd probably say that for him, the ends justify the means. But many would disagree. Some would argue that the cost of perfection is too high if it requires even one person to needlessly suffer. This is an important discussion because the creative industry tends to foster a culture of excusing unethical behavior, especially when the process leads to masterful work. I'm challenging this notion because I believe that success can be obtained by remaining morally ethical. Some people believe that suffering is a requirement to achieve innovation. I completely disagree with this sentiment, and this episode is not meant to single out Stanley Kubrick because he is not the first nor the last person to display allegedly questionable ethics. In this piece, we are examining this moral issue through the study and analysis of Stanley Kubrick's directing methods. The art of conspiracy. Stanley Kubrick's films explore a variety of controversial subjects, including secret societies, artificial intelligence, anti-war critique, societal control, social gender constructs, and a moral obsession. Given the highly sensitive nature of these topics, we will not individually analyze them or each film in depth. However, I do recommend watching his films because they reveal the complexity of Stanley Kubrick's psychology, values, and beliefs. In watching these films, I have a difficult time discerning if Stanley wanted us to be on the right side of these issues. Some of his storytelling mechanics almost require you to feel sympathy for evil people, which is both uncomfortable and problematic. It raises the question, is there a line where it's fair to withhold sympathy for certain characters? I'm always asking myself that question. How did Stanley want me to feel about these characters? Is he critiquing this subject or is he attempting to justify it? One thing is for certain. The messages and conclusions drawn from his works are deeply personal to the viewer. Some critics and fans believe that Kubrick's films are confessions. For example, his film Eyes Wide Shut seemingly reveals the function and depredation of secret societies that operate just under the veil of mundane society. And these speculations are even more eerie considering recent events that exposed secret societies that operate globally. Some believe that 2001 A Space Odyssey indicates that Stanley may have falsified the moon landing in 1969. They also point out the film's exploration of artificial intelligence and its uncanny relevance to modern discourse surrounding AI. I don't need to tell you how controversial AI is, as I'm sure many of you have seen the discourse on social media. There are questions surrounding Kubrick's involvement in and knowledge of these obscure subjects. Did Stanley unwittingly predict the future? Was he a part of a secret society? Did years of insider knowledge drive him to madness? Or was it his desire for cinematic perfection that caused him to spiral? Kubrick's unexpected demise in 1999 would bring floods of speculation surrounding his complex and mysterious life. Reports surfaced that there had been conflict between Stanley and film production regarding the final cut of the film Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley passed away just a few days after editing the final cut of this film, and his daughter once said that there was a large portion of the film cut from the ending. She lamented that her father's cut of the film was not the cut that made it into theaters and DVD cases. Shortly after making these statements, Stanley's daughter would leave the public eye, causing more confusion and speculation among fans and critics. Sanpaku Eye Theory. In Chinese and Japanese face reading, there is a characteristic known as sanpaku. Within Japanese culture, sanpaku eyes are thought to be associated with ill fate and misfortune. Within Chinese culture, the sanpaku is a sign of good luck or fortune. There are two types of sanpaku, known as yang sanpaku, which is characterized by the visibility of the left, right, and top of the sclera, and yin sanpaku, conversely characterized by the visibility of the left, right, and bottom of the sclera. Some public figures with sanpaku eyes include Charles Manson, Princess Diana, John F. Kennedy, and even Stanley Kubrick has yin sanpaku eyes. Medical explanations for sanpaku eyes include aging, genetics, surgery, and hormonal conditions, such as those that cause proptosis. These correlative medical conditions are often diverse or sophisticated, and according to medical science, sanpaku does not inhibit or enhance vision, as it tends to be purely aesthetic. A 2020 research paper revealed that sanpaku is quite common, affecting around 50% of the population. Still, there is much controversy and cultural superstition regarding the phenomenon of sanpaku eyes. My research into the film industry left me with the impression that it has the type of culture that not only glosses over amorality, but it tends to justify it for the sake of better art. There are many amoral figures within Hollywood, according to my research, which led me to countless examples of immoral actors whose criminal records are completely ignored by the industry. Rather than admonishing this conduct, the industry sweeps it under the rug while pushing these figures to massive levels of fame. In previous episodes of SOS, we've discussed ethical philosophy and morality. There are many schools of moral thought that people subscribe to, and these guidelines dictate our personal codes of conduct, how we treat others, and how we treat ourselves. It seems that the film industry most often demonstrates plebeian ethics, and these are ethics that assert that if an act can drive a profit, then it is not disgraceful. And if you apply this school of moral thought to other industries, a frustrating pattern emerges. Most industries are not human first. In fact, many of them brazenly state that they are AI first. And really, this is just their way of saying that they are profit first. I tend to believe that any business can be profitable while remaining ethical. And while so many think you must step on others to be successful, I have never believed that to be true. I believe that if you must forego your ethics to garner success, then it's not the right path. This is something for you to chew on as we move forward into new topics that will soon be coming to the channel. You are welcome to share your perspectives in the comments. I hope each of you are well and safe. Remember, keep it kind, keep it logical, and keep it classy in the comments.